Now we go to identify and describe the structures and function of human respiratory system. Breathing is the mechanical process of moving air from the environment into the lungs and expelling air from the lung. Mammals use negative pressure breathing, pulling air into their lungs. According to Boyle's law, when the volume of a given quantity of gas increases, its pressure decreases. Inhaling air is referred to as inspiration. Exhaling air is expiration. Respiration is the process of gas exchange between organism and its environment. During respiration, oxygen from the environment is taken up and delivered into individual cells. At the same time, carbon dioxide generated during cellular respiration is excreted into the environment. The respiratory system of human consists of the lung and a series of tubes, breathing to move air from the environment to the lung and expelling air from the lung. As air enters the body through the nostril and flows through the nasal cavities, air passes through the nose and it is filtered, moistened and brought to the body temperature. Nasal cavity is lined with a moist ciliated epithelium that is rich in blood vessels. Cells within the epithelium produce mucus to trap inhaled dirt, bacteria and other foreign particles. The back of nasal cavity is continuous with the pharynx. An opening in the floor of the pharynx leads to the larynx, which is Adam apples. From the larynx, air passes into the trachea or windpipe. The cartilage that reinforce the wall of both the larynx and the trachea keep this part as the open airway. The trachea divides into two branches, the bronchi, each of which connect to a lung. Both trachea and bronchi are lined by mucous membrane containing ciliated cells to trap dirt, bacteria and other foreign particles. The lungs are large, packed and spongy organ occupying the thoracic, which is chest cavity. The right lung have 3 lobes, where left lung comes with 2 lobes, and the whole lung is covered with a pleural membrane. Pleural membrane form a continuous sac that encloses the lung, which is line the thoracic cavity. The space between the pleural membrane is the pleural cavity, contain liquid to provide lubrication between the lungs and the chest wall. Inside the lung is bronchi, branch, give rise to millions of tiny bronchioles in each lung. Each bronchiole ends in a cluster of tiny air sacs, which is alveoli. Each alveolus is lined by an extremely thin single layer of epithelial cells. Gases diffuse freely to the wall of the alveolus and into the capillary that surround it. The muscular floor of the thoracic cavity is the diaphragm. The inner pleural cavity is called the visceral pleural membrane, whereas the outer membrane is parietal pleural membrane. So this is the basic structure of the organ that actually involved in the respiratory system. Alveoli are well adapted for gases exchange, where alveoli provide a large surface area for gas exchange. The surface of alveoli are moist for gases to dissolve before diffusion can take place. The alveoli have thin wall, which is only 1 cell thick, where gas dissolve and diffuse easily. The alveoli are surrounded by numerous blood capillaries, thus contribute to the large volume for the gas exchange. Fick's law diffusion. The diffusion process in respiration is passive, driven only by the differences in oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration on both sides of the membrane. In general, the rate of diffusion between two regions is governed by the Fick's law of diffusion. Amount of oxygen or carbon dioxide that diffuses across the membrane of an alveolus depends on the differences in partial pressure on the two sides of the membrane and on the surface area of the membrane. In the alveoli, the concentration of oxygen is greater than in the pulmonary capillaries, so oxygen diffuses from alveoli into the blood. Carbon dioxide is more concentrated in the blood than in the alveoli, so it diffuses out of the capillary and into the alveoli. In the tissue, oxygen is more concentrated in the blood than in the body cell. It diffuses out of the capillaries into the cell. Carbon dioxide is more concentrated in the cell, so it diffuses out of the cell and moves into the blood. So, for the rate of diffusion, the equation that used is R equal to D times A delta P over D, where R, the rate of diffusion, the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide diffused per unit of time. D, diffusion constant. A, the area over which diffusion takes place. Delta P, the difference in concentration for gases, the difference in their partial pressures between the interior and the organism and the external environment. D is the distance across which diffusion takes place. So, the factors that affected the increment of R, which is rate of diffusion. Number 1, increase in surface area, which is A, where highly flooded surface area. Number 2, decrease of the diffusion distance. The shorter the distance, the quicker the rate of diffusion. Different in partial pressure, where higher gases concentration different between the inside and outside respiratory surface. Number 4, the gas will diffuse faster is the difference in partial pressure or the surface area increases.